Start recording. My head is pounding a little bit from yesterday. I don't know why. Let me share the slides with everyone, which has the context of everything we have covered in. So there were two parts of Web3, client-side Web3 and smart contract logic. We're almost there when it comes to client-side Web3, although we skipped a few topics because class ke end mein, it's like I'll make an offline video and then I forgot. So I will share all of that, the things that are missing, and then we go from there. Let me share the slides with everyone. These are the slides for today. Today we're doing a bunch of things we have already done in Solana, in Ethereum. We've already done wallet adapters, wallets, mnemonics, creating wallets, things like these in Solana. The same thing we have to replicate to Ethereum. Shouldn't be too difficult, but unfortunately it is a little bit difficult in Ethereum. Ethereum is a little too decentralized compared to Solana. So what happens there is, let me close everything here. I think I'm fine. All right. What happens in Ethereum is it was, as I said, too decentralized from the beginning. So a lot of things the core engineers of Ethereum don't maintain, other people maintain. It's a good thing. Doesn't happen in Solana. In Solana, the client and the wallet adapter, both the things that we saw, were maintained by Solana initially. Eventually it spun out into a different entity, Anza. Right now the client and the wallet adapter are maintained by Anza, which is a separate entity now, I think, from the foundation. But Ethereum might happen from the beginning. Okay, various people started to create various different projects. So one such project that every blockchain needs is wallet adapters. Wallets, wallet adapters, clients, if you remember from last to last week, are things that other people should create. Core Ethereum foundation shouldn't create that. Foundation should at max create the spec. Our blockchain should look like this. Everything else other people should create. That happened for Ethereum. So we'll understand what are the wallets on Ethereum, what are the wallet adapters on Ethereum. The one that we'll be going through is WAGMI, which is the most famous one. I remember when I joined Backpack, the first issue that was there that I saw did not really work on was integrating Backpack with WAGMI, because Backpack was a Solana wallet, still is primarily Solana, but it supports Ethereum also. So one of the issue was make sure we have a WAGMI connector, which we did not back in the day. I don't think it was ever made. So that is the context for today. This is the final code. If you can already understand it, great. Unfortunately, you have to understand another library called TanStack query, if you've heard of it, to understand the code for today. You can understand it without it as well, but the library that we're using uses TanStack query. So today we'll also go through a little bit TanStack query. We have a video in cohort 2 that I can post also. We don't have to go too deep into it, but the library we will be using under the hood uses TanStack query. So we will have to understand that a little bit. This was the syllabus for Web3 client side. We still have to go through server side, which is probably the major portion. I think it's 2.5 months since the code started, or 1.5 months, one of these two. Probably 2.5 months. So in the last 2.5 months, we have covered the general part. The one thing that I haven't really covered in too much depth is gas. So I'll probably cover that in an offline video. Ethereum, we understood all of this last week. Proof of stake, we didn't understand. We can do a video on pure consensus also. In fact, I have a podcast coming where we discuss a little bit about consensus algorithms. I'm also happy to dive deep into this. This we discussed last week. This we are covering today. Maybe not EtherJS, everything else. In Solana, we have covered everything, but NFT logic, we totally left out. We have made it tokens. Creating NFTs are very similar. NFT is nothing but a token only, non-fungible token. We'll understand the difference. We'll understand how can you create your own tokens. And when we created a DEX, there are a few things missing over there. Creating a liquidity pool, funding a liquidity pool, things like these. Someone mentioned in the comments as well. That is another thing we have to do. After we're done with that, then we'll move on to the projects. The first project, I would assume you guys understand, have built in bits and pieces. I might have built it completely also. If not, I've at least built it in bits and pieces. I've seen a few of you build it. So I would assume this is simple. The other 3 projects we have to build, we will see if it's a live video or offline. Hopefully live. I think project videos should be live. Guided, like you guys code, I speak and something like that. That's the context for today. So what we're covering is wallets in Ethereum, very simple. Wallet adapters in Ethereum, simple to understand, slightly hard to implement because we have to understand a few other libraries for it. And building a web-based wallet in Ethereum. We won't really be building a web-based wallet in Ethereum. We'll add the functionality that should make it very simple to create a web-based wallet. Some of you might have already created a web-based wallet for Solana, and I saw some of you had Ethereum functionality there as well. So we can build something like this, but what we're really building is the wallet adapter and using the wallet adapter to interact with the user's wallet. What is a wallet? Phantom is a wallet. MetaMask is a wallet. Today we'll mostly be dealing with MetaMask. It's the primary wallet on Ethereum right now, but other wallets like Phantom also support it. How many of you already understand this? Let's start with a poll. How many of you already understand everything that we're going to learn today? These are the high level topics. Specifically, I'm assuming most people here don't know Timestack or Veeam. Everything else, and WAGMI, the library. Do you already know this? Oh, interesting. Today it's very less people who know it. I mean, not very less, like 75% know it, don't know it, 25% know it. So usually it's 40-60. So great. Some new topics for everyone. Without any further ado, let's kick things off with wallets in Ethereum. This is more of a revision. In the beginning, we have created a wallet in Ethereum and Solana also. So we'll spend 5 minutes on it, not more than that. What are wallets in Ethereum? What is a wallet generally? It's a public-private key pair, right? If you ever want to transact with the blockchain, if you ever want to hold Ethereum in actuality, not in an exchange like WazirX, in actuality, if you want to hold your own keys, not your keys, not your crypto, if you want to hold your own keys, you use wallets. There are two types of wallets usually, hot wallets and cold wallets. Hot wallet is the one that people usually start with, then they get hacked, or they make a lot of money in crypto, then they move to cold wallets. What is a hot wallet? These are connected to the internet and are more convenient for frequent transactions. Usually, people have some money in hot wallets, most of their net worth in cold wallets. Examples include web wallets like those on exchanges. Probably, don't think of an exchange wallet like anything. Ignore this. Mobile wallets and desktop wallets. These are the two commonly available hot wallets. Harkirat, can you give an example? Yes. If you look at it here, I have Phantom, which is, as I said, primarily was made for Solana, built for Solana, but you can also hold Ethereum over here. So if I open this account 1, I have no Solana in there, no Ethereum in there, but it shows me this is my Solana address, this is my Ethereum address, my public key. If I share this public key with you, you can send me some Ethereum. When you send me, that amount will appear over here. So Phantom has now become a multi-chain wallet. It supports multiple blockchains, be it Solana, Ethereum, Polygon, Bitcoin. But the one that was, the most OG wallet, probably one of the first wallets was MetaMask. MetaMask is the first company that sort of got really popular in these web-based wallet niche. Everyone else is, sort of a copy or, built on top of it. Phantom tried to copy what MetaMask did on Solana, ended up doing really well. They're also worth $1 billion. MetaMask sort of ignored Solana, so Phantom ended up winning the race over there. This was the first such wallet. You have already created it in the past. We can recreate one very soon, but the way to do it is fairly simple. You have to install an extension. MetaMask, just go to metamask.com or metamask.io, click on, you'll see a button over here that says install MetaMask. Let me remove it from my extensions. Remove. And now if I refresh, it tells me get MetaMask. When I click on it, it takes me to a extension. Why are wallets extensions? I'm assuming you already know this by now. We have already discussed dApps, decentralized apps. If you ever want to interact with a website, like on Ethereum, Blur is the most famous NFT marketplace. On Solana, I showed you Tensor, which is another NFT marketplace. If you want a simpler example for Ethereum, Uniswap, a dApp, a decentralized app that lets you swap from, let's say, Ethereum to any other token. These are what are called decentralized apps or dApps. Why are they called dApps? Because when you try to, let's say, convert one Ethereum to, let's say, USDC or DAI or whatever token you want, and you click on connect, you click on swap, whatever, it asks you connect wallet. It says, I am just a website. You probably have your funds in some wallet where you have your private key. Click on me. I will pop up this wallet for an approval. When you pop up this wallet, you can swap one asset for another. Let me quickly show you. if I go to uniswap.org on my Google Chrome, where I have this MetaMask, where I have some funds, if I say I want to convert 1 Ethereum to, let's say, USDC, it tells me I can get back this much USDC. When I click on connect wallet, it asks me, which wallet do you want to connect to? Seems like you have MetaMask, Phantom, Backpack, or Wallet Connect, or Coinbase wallet. We'll get to what both of these are. We'll build something very similar today. I select MetaMask over here. It pops up MetaMask. It pops up MetaMask and asks me, which one of these wallets do you want to connect, Harkirat? I say this one. I have multiple, public keys, multiple wallets in here. I want to connect this one. When I click on confirm, the wallet gets connected. When I click on swap, the website pops up Phantom for an approval. A random website can't debit money from my wallet. A random website can request for money to be debited. MetaMask makes sure that I look at this and understand that okay, I am sending 1 Ethereum and this website is converting it into this much USDC. If I click on confirm, it will work. It is not working right now because this is not my cold wallet. This is my hot wallet. But if this is not my hot wallet, this is my cold wallet. But if this was a real wallet of mine, I could click on confirm. 1 Ethereum would get debited. Some USDC would get credited. These are what are wallets. This is what is a dApp. Creating a wallet by yourself, I'm assuming, is very easy. We already saw it. If you go to MetaMask over here, it will take you to this extensions page. When I click on add to Brave, I can add this extension. Wait for it. And now if I click on it, it takes me to this onboarding page. Do we remember this onboarding from a while ago? We did it in the initial classes. I can create a fresh hot wallet right now. What am I creating? A hot wallet. Why is it a hot wallet? Because when I click on this and keep going, it asks me, Harkirat, create a password. This is a local password. This is only for my machine. Okay, in case someone comes on my laptop, they are not able to see my wallet and swap immediately. This is a local password in case someone gets access to my laptop. This password never reaches a server. This password never goes to the blockchain. Let me put a password over here. Click on create a new wallet. It asks me, do you want to secure this wallet right now? Or later I say, I want to secure my wallet right now. Then it shows me a recovery phrase. Since this recovery phrase exists on my browser right now, this recovery phrase exists. If I click on next and go through the whole process, this recovery phrase will exist in MetaMask over here in this extension. That is why it is a hot wallet. Because since it exists directly over here, when I go to a dApp like Uniswap, I can immediately swap one asset for another because private key to yahin pe hai na, private key is here. That is a hot wallet. But what is a cold wallet? These are offline wallets, making them more secure against hacks. These, oh boy, these look something like a hardware device. Yeah, I don't have one here, but it's like a pen drive. Your secret is stored in there. So whenever I am on a website like this, that is why when I was on Google Chrome over here and I clicked on accept, and when it popped up the approval, I wasn't able to click on confirm because it said, be sure your ledger is plugged in and connected to the Ethereum app. I have not connected my ledger, my hot wallet, my cold wallet right now, which is why I can't click on the confirm button. MetaMask does not have my private key. I could give you my laptop. You could still not debit funds from my account because my private key exists in a physical device, not in this wallet. Even though I see it in this wallet, I can see my balances in this wallet, but this is all read-only data. This is because MetaMask knows कि ये public key का ledger हरकीरत के पास है. MetaMask knows कि this public keys ledger हरकीरत has, so it is showing me my balances. But if I try to do anything, swap, send someone at some Ethereum, then it will ask me to connect my physical wallet. Only if I connect my ledger will I be able to debit and credit money. So do we understand wallets? We have done this many times. It should be more of a recap. There are two types of wallets: hot wallets, cold wallets. Cold wallets look something like this. They're a real physical device that you should buy yourself. You should never use it if a friend gifts it to you. There are ways to verify if a friend gifts it to you as well. But usually you should always order this on the official Ledger website and use it. For example, Harnoor gifted me one, never used it because, God knows what is in there. So, you always buy this from an official Ledger shop. Otherwise, you don't use it. Or you create your own hot wallet. This is very risky. So, if you do it, remember, if your laptop ever gets in your friend's hand, your money they can take. Wallet addresses, hopefully we understand. You saw a while back, I have multiple wallets over here, Ledger 1, Ledger 2, Ledger 3. They have a public key, that's my wallet address. Seed phrase, we just saw a while back, the thing over here. This is the seed phrase for the wallet that I am creating. Ski, master, viable, so on and so forth. It's a 12-word phrase. I should keep this safe. I have not kept it safe. You guys can see it, which is why I will never put funds in the wallets that I make from this specific, onboarding. Is onboarding se jo wallet banega, I will never put funds there. If I do, since you guys can see my seed phrase, you guys can, get the private key for that wallet and you guys can transact on my behalf and send yourself Ethereum. Private keys. Private keys are derived from the seed phrase. Do we remember HD wallets? We discussed them initially. Hierarchical derivable wallets, hierarchy derivable wallets, HD wallets. You have a single seed phrase from which you derive multiple public and private keys. Similar to what is happening over here. I have multiple wallets, Ledger 1, Ledger 2, Ledger 3. They all have the same seed phrase. They have different private keys. This has a different private key. This has a different private key. But given the seed phrase, I can convert it into various private keys. I can get the private keys. Given this is there, the private keys are derivable from this 12-word seed. Do we understand wallets in Ethereum? Is this simple? Can we move on? Again, the slides are over here if you want to go through them. I'm hoping this is fairly simple to build. Do we understand? Can we proceed? 90% is not bad, 91%. All right. Cool. Now let's get into wallet adapters. Hopefully we remember the Solana wallet adapter that I discussed a while back. Similar to the Solana wallet adapter, there are wallet adapters that exist in Ethereum. There isn't one, there are many. Same was the case for Solana. If you remember, there was a Jupiter wallet connector that we saw. There was the Anza wallet adapter that we saw. Today also there are many wallet adapters available. Wagmi is one of the famous ones. Wagmi, this is a very common term. They just name their wallet adapter. Firstly, do we understand what are wallet adapters, I guess? Some of you, I'm assuming, don't. But we discussed this in Solana. Wallet adapters. There are two things in a blockchain. Number one, a dApp. Number two, various wallets. What are various wallets? MetaMask is a wallet. Phantom is a wallet. Backpack is a wallet. The user can have one of many wallets on their machine. For example, on my machine, I have MetaMask. I have Phantom right now in my Brave browser. I have two wallets. So whenever someone creates a dApp, a decentralized app like Uniswap, they need to connect to these wallets. They need to ask these wallets for approval from time to time. Okay, hey, this user said they want to convert. This user said they want to convert 1 ETH over to 2500 USDC. Can I request for approval? Can you please ask the user if they can confirm this transaction? So dApps need to talk to various wallets. One way to facilitate that is wallet adapters. The name itself says it is an adapter for wallet. It lets you connect to one of many wallets without writing too much logic. आपको ज़्यादा logic लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. The wallet adapter will have the logic to connect to these wallets, to request approval for these wallets. Your app just needs to design the transaction. Okay, what do you want to do on this user's wallet? आप ये logic यहाँ लिख दो कि I want to take -1 Ethereum and add 2500 USDC. Just write that transaction. Send that transaction over to the wallet adapter. The wallet adapter will ensure it pops up MetaMask or Phantom or Backpack whatever the user has connected right now. When I went to Uniswap, it gave me various options. If I disconnect my wallet from here and try to reconnect, it tells me कि यार MetaMask से connect करना है, Phantom से connect करना है, किससे connect करना है, who do you want to connect to? So a wallet adapter will detect these wallets, show you these wallets. The user can select which one they want to connect to. This time, let's say I connected with Phantom. Now this is my Phantom public key. The user can decide which one of these wallets they want to use. Wallet adapter, you can write it yourself. Uniswap people might have written it themselves, but usually you use a wallet adapter. It has all the logic to connect. You just request approval from various transactions. WAGMI is one such wallet adapter. WAGMI is a React hooks library. We'll get to what that is. Designed for building applications that interact with the Ethereum and other blockchains. React hooks library. We haven't discussed custom hooks in React until now, but we will see them today. Custom hooks, what they are, and how does the WAGMI library expose a few custom hooks that we will use today. Its primary focus is to simplify the process of connecting wallets, managing user sessions, and making Ethereum calls. Do we understand? Its primary focus is it will show the wallets, let the dApp connect to a wallet, let the dApp send transactions to this wallet. It will show the pop-up and then the user can approve or deny this transaction. The key features include, number one, it gives you a bunch of React hooks. We'll get to what those are and why they are used. Supports multiple wallets. Any Ethereum wallet that you see, be it Backpack, Phantom, MetaMask, it will be able to show you those wallets and let you connect to it. Automatic reconnection. It has all the logic to, in case your internet dies, in case your wallet disconnects, it reconnects it. And lastly, built-in state management. We'll see this very soon, but basically it does state management for you. Harkiyat, what is state management? Okay, if you change from one wallet to another, and let's say you were using let me show this in a better fashion. Let's say the user was connected to wallet 1. Let's say the wallet 1 address is 0x113, something like this. And you have written logic to show them their balance over here, 0.1 ETH. Now let's say the user disconnects and then reconnects another wallet, 0x112. Then it will automatically update the state variable to show the balance of this specific public key. It has React hooks for managing wallet connections, fetching data from smart contracts and interacting with Ethereum providers. And it has built-in state management, manages users' account state. If you switch from one account to another, it will automatically update the state variables. It will automatically update this address variable that you can render on the UI. It will automatically update their balance to what it is. So you don't have to write a bunch of this logic yourself. You can write it yourself also. We will do that today. But you should just depend on the WAGMI library, the hooks that it provides. Do we remember the use state hook we have discussed many times until now? The use effect hook. What if there was a use balance hook that gives you the balance of a specific address? Or there was a use address hook that returns you what is the current address the user has. So you can render it over here. These hooks, the WAGMI library provides you, but you can write them yourself. We will write them ourselves today also. Then we will use the WAGMI library and see how easy it becomes for us. Hopefully this is straightforward. I've just given an introduction of the WAGMI library. Before we dive into this library, let's look at a few libraries that this uses. You don't have to learn this, but it is good to know. Under the hood, WAGMI depends on two libraries, VM and Tanstack query, if you've heard of it. I don't know how to pronounce this, might be different pronunciation. I never use this. I've always used WAGMI only. But today only I learned that under the hood it uses this. Both of them have been created by the same company. So I thought let's look at this also. Then let's see how have they converted both of these into this. Then we will eventually just use the WAGMI library. So these are the three libraries that are good to know if you want to do wallet adapters in Ethereum. This is the main one. You can directly go with this, or you can build your own wallet adapter by using both of these as well. Because this sort of depends on these two. You can write the code that the WAGMI engineers have written yourselves, or you can just depend on this library. To kick things off, the first is tan stack query. How many of us already know this library? We should probably do this in React as well. We did this in cohort 2. But do you already know what this library does? What are its benefits? Most people say no. It's a common library. Some people use it. I have rarely used it. But last code also, people only asked, discuss this library. So I'm like, we read through it and discussed it. But long story short, this is the definition from the other place. WAGMI hooks are not only a wrapper around WAGMI actions, but they also utilize standard query. Let's go through the definition over here. Let's go to their official page and understand what they do. High quality open source. There's too many buzzwords over here. Let's look at the code and understand what they do. Let's start a React project and write some code and use tan stack query and understand what benefits does it provide compared to if you don't use tan stack query. There are a lot of things it provides. A bunch of companies use it. Let's see what that is. Step 1, initialize a React project. You can do it locally. You can do it on Replit as well. I'm just going to do it locally. And I'm going to do it a little quickly because I'm hoping you guys can now initialize React projects yourself. So let me go to the projects folder, cohort 3 folder. And over here, let me do npm create wheat at the rate of latest. That would initialize a new React project for me. By the way, you guys should stick around till the end. I want to do a small test of a webinar product that we have built. So if you have the time, just stick around till the end. And we'll try live streaming on a different product that a few people have built in Super 30. All right, let me select the framework. The framework I'm going to select as React, language, JavaScript. And now I'm going to, I didn't give it a name, which is fine. I'm going to open this in Visual Studio Code next. This is going to be mild revision of React as well for some people. I've opened my React project here. This is the root level app.jsx. I'm assuming we already know this, already a prerequisite for the Web3 cohort. We have also discussed in Web2 cohort now. I need to run npm install followed by npm run dev to start the React project locally. When I start it and go to this website, I see some default code on the right. I can get rid of all the HTML here and write something like hi there. That is what appears over here. So whatever code I write over here is appearing over here. Hopefully this is very simple. I'm not diving too deep into this. You understand how a React project is built. Given we understand this React project, how can you write the code that sends a backend request to, let's say, this URL? JSON placeholder.typecode.com/posts sends an HTTP request, gets back a list of these elements and renders them on the screen. What do we want to do? We know there is a dummy endpoint available. This is a dummy backend endpoint which returns an array of elements. How can we send a request there, get this array as a response, render the response on the screen? How can we do? This is the JSON placeholder backend. It is hosted over here. This is my React frontend. How can I send a request over here, get back the response and render the response over here? We have discussed this a few times in the Web2 cohort. I will create a state variable, const, whatever, let's call it to-dos, or what are these posts, comma set posts equal to use state empty array. I will create a use effect which will run whenever this top level component mounts. And here I can either send a axios.get request, if you guys know the Axios library, or I can send a fetch request to, what is our URL? The URL is this URL that we saw over here, that is returning all the posts. We have to send a request to this URL. How are we doing it? We are doing it inside a use effect. Why are we not doing it outside the use effect? Hopefully, it re-renders every time. It will cause multiple fetches. If not, go to the Web2 cohort. We have discussed the use effect hook very well over there. I send the fetch request. I get back the response. Now this might be a little confusing for some people. So let me just do this so it's easier to understand. Let's say I call a function called get posts. I call a function called get posts, which I've defined over here. It is an async function, so it's slightly easier to read. No other reason. The only reason I did not do it directly over here because this is slightly easier to read. Here I say const response equal to await a fetch on this endpoint. I say I want to send a request, but this returns a promise. So I need to await the promise. Then I get the response. If you remember from the initial classes, what is step 2? Const JSON equal to await response.json. You have to await this as well. Someone posted a Stack Overflow of why that is. It's because this resolves immediately when you get the first header, but this resolves only when you get the body, which is why you have to await over here as well. If you did not understand why, you still hopefully remember from the initial classes, okay, you have to do this. If this feels jarring, you can always use the Axios library as well. And then what do I do? Set posts as JSON. Then I can just render all the posts over here. What is this code over here doing? It is setting this posts state variable. Inside the use effect, I call get posts. This sends a backend request, gets back a response, converts it into JSON, calls set posts, which updates this state variable. Hopefully that is clear and we have already done it. If not, I'll do a poll. If that's bad, then I'm happy to take you through it. Once you get all the posts, what do you have to do? You have to render them one below the other. How can you do that? Do we remember iterating in React? If we don't, just dump it. That is also fine. Just convert this post object into a string and dump the string over here for now. If it is hard, if you don't understand how you can iterate over an array of posts and render just the title, just dump the whole thing, it is fine. What would happen then? What would this code do? This code would render something like this. All the JSON data is rendered over here. This is very jarring to look at, but it's easier to code right now, which is why I rendered the posts. Let me recap. What does the app component do? Let's read through it. Defines a state variable, which is initially empty. Ignore this function. It is just defined, not called right now. Then inside the use effect, I call get posts. Whenever this component mounts, I call this function. What does this function do? Sends a request to the backend, gets the data in this JSON variable, and calls set posts JSON. Updates the posts variable to be the same array that you see over here. Very big, object or very big array. Then I just dump it on the screen. A better thing to do would be not this, but iterate over the posts and render a div, which let's say renders post.title. This hopefully you understand. If not, you should go through the videos where we have discussed this. How do you iterate over an array and render it conditional, or render all the elements one by one? If you remember, you also have to do this post.id, something like this. There's a whole section in the React video where we discuss how to iterate over an array of posts and render them on the screen. Just the title. We iterate over the posts and render just the title. If wanted, we can also render the ID. We can render the user ID. We can render the body. But we are just rendering the titles for now. When we do that, now I only see the titles on the screen. I don't see the whole object that's dumped. Slightly more cleaner to look at compared to what we were seeing before, which was the complete JSON dumped. Do we understand this, the ugly way to do fetching? Then we'll understand tan stack query and why that is slightly better. But do we understand this? Sort of. 90% is not bad. So let's proceed. I'll take doubts at the end. The next step is using this TanStack query library. What does it do? How is it better? Well, there are a few things you did over here. There's a lot of code that you had to write as a developer. आपने बहुत सारा code लिखा. You wrote this function as well. You created the state variable yourself. You called it in the use effect. What if this backend request failed? What if I was sending this request to some random endpoint, let's say, random.com. What if there was nothing over there? What would happen? It didn't crash. I was hoping it would crash. I'm hoping to send it to an endpoint that returns like some 500 error. That would just crash our front end. We haven't yet added a try catch over here. We haven't yet caught an error. This could totally return you, a very bad error. And when it does, your application would crash. You would see like a crash on the front end. You would see an error over here. Right now, let's see. It failed, but it didn't yet throw an error. Why is that? I would have hoped it threw an error. We'll debug this later. This should have probably thrown an error, which should have, come up on the UI. Either way, what is the point? The point is, I'm not doing any very good error catching here. If this request failed, I should have shown to the user on the UI, okay, your request has failed. Something is up with the backend, something like this. I haven't written that logic. I am not refetching every 5 seconds. What if this backend updates every 5 seconds? There's a lot of data updates that are happening. I should be refetching it every 5 seconds so that, अगर कुछ change हुआ है backend में, वो change आ जाए. That change propagates to the front end. You might say, Harkirat, I can just put this inside a set interval. I can just put this inside a set interval. That way, every 5 seconds, we will refetch the posts so we can get the latest posts. That is true. This works. You might say, Harkirat, I will put this inside a try catch block. That way, even if there is an error, अगर यहाँ पे error आ भी गया, I will catch that error and log something. Let's say कि there has been an error, or update a state variable called error and render the state variable over here. That way the user can see the error on the screen. You can do that. But what if I say loader भी तो नहीं है? There is no loader initially. When I come to the screen, it's empty. And then the posts come eventually. They're not coming right now. There you go. Took like 7 seconds. Then the post come. Where is the loader? Okay, I'm getting data from the backend. All of this you can do yourself. You can add a loader, an error handler, refetching logic, everything yourself. Or you can just rely on a library that does it. That is one of many things the TanStack library lets you do. Let's see that in action now. Okay, how can we not do all of this logic ourselves and depend on a library that does it? Step 1. Let's go back to the slides. Install the TanStack React query library. npm install @tanstack/react query. Step 2. Create the function that gets the data. The library requires you to tell it कि यार वो क्या function है that will fetch me the data. I don't care what the data is, but give me the function that is going to hit the backend and get back some data. उसके ऊपर मैं सब कुछ देख लूँगी. I will handle everything on top. I will handle error handling. I will give you a loader variable. I will refetch every 10 seconds. But please tell me the way to hit the backend and get back some data. Give me the query that you want to run. In our case, that is this function, a getter function that I have written, sends a request to the backend, gets the response, returns the response. Let me copy this. Go back to Visual Studio Code, paste it over here. Doesn't have to be inside the component, can exist outside. Step 1, create the getter function. Let me get rid of everything else. Okay? As simple as that. Create a getter function which tells the TanStack query library how are you going to get data from the backend. Step 2, create what's called a query client. Think of this similar to, it's just one global variable that you have to create for all the fetches that you have to do. You don't have to create it twice. You only have to create it once. But when you are using this library, you have to create a query client where you're going to, which is going to have all the logic to send requests to the backend and everything else and, refetch things like these. So create a query client variable over here. Where does this come from? It comes from at tanstack/react query. Get this class from there, import it, and then create a fresh query client. Step 3, create a provider. Do we remember the context API from last week? We did this last week. We did the same thing in the Solana wallet adapter as well. Okay, we had to wrap our React application inside a provider. We had to wrap all of our logic inside a provider. Harkirat, what is a provider? A provider is something that you get when you use the context API. Harkirat, what is the context API? It lets you propagate state to various children in your, component tree. Harkirat, kuch nahi samajh aa raha. Go back to last week's video, 10.2. We have discussed the context API in detail. So the next step is wrap your application inside the query client provider. So create a query client provider wrapper over here and provided the query client that you have initialized over here. These are the 3 extra steps you have to do before you can do any logic. So what have I done? Created the getter function, which is going to, eventually get the data from the backend. Created a new query client, wrapped my application inside a query client provider. Let me create a component called posts, jahan pe I want to eventually render my posts. All that logic, ab I'm going to put in a posts component. I can't do it here directly. I'll get to why, but basically you can't use any React query statements over here because they lie outside the provider. So you have to create a fresh component. Let's say posts, jahan pe we will be writing all of our real logic to fetch the posts and render them on the screen. To recap, step 1, create a getter function. It could do anything. It could, hit the Ethereum blockchain and get some balance for a specific, wallet address, let's say. It could hit an endpoint that looks like this, eth-balance.ethereum.com/balance/ some address, OX something. It could do that, but what is it doing right now? Just getting some posts from somewhere. That logic is written in this function. Now, in the posts component, we use our first hook. What are we using? We are using our first hook, use query client. I think we might just be able to use this variable as well, but let's not experiment. Const query client equal to use query client. Where does this come from? It again comes from the same library, at tanstack/react query. This is our very first custom hook. We have seen use state, we have seen use effect. You can create your own custom hooks. These guys have created one, use query client, which most probably provides you this query client over here. Harkirat, last week though we did this use context and gave it something inside. Yes, but you can wrap all of that logic inside a custom hook of yours like these guys have done. So get the query client over here, write your query. This is the most important bit. Yahan pe, this one line is enough to send a request to the backend, refetch the data, give you the loader, give you an error in case the request fails. This one line of code, if I paste over here, what does the line say? Const query equal to use query, a key for the query. कि ये query को एक नाम दे दो. Give this specific query a name. Let's call it posts. And tell me the query function. How do I know what the exact query is? क्या request जा रही है? वो सारा logic आपने कहीं लिखा है ना? We have written it in a getter function. So give it the getter function. कि यार ये रहा वो function. This is the function that you have to run to fetch the to-dos. Now, do all of your logic and figure out, give me the data, give me if there is an error, give me if you are currently loading in a variable over here. So what does the use query hook do? The use query hook expects कि आप उसको एक नाम दोगे, a title for this query. We have called it posts because it's getting all of our posts. And you will give it a query function. कि यहाँ पे logic लिखा है, here I have written the logic to fetch the posts from the backend. Then this query variable has a bunch of fields inside. I'm looking at the types here, but most probably, if my guess is right, the variables would look something like this: is loading and error. This use query hook gives you an object back. You can totally like this, or you can destructure this object. इस object में बहुत सारी keys हैं. We are interested in 3 keys. The final data. Is this अभी भी loading? क्या अभी ये backend से data मांग रहा है? Is it still asking for the data from the backend? And was there an error while fetching data from the backend? These are the 3 variables that we ask, that we get from this query. Use query hook. It returns you 3 variables. And then conditionally you can write whatever logic you want. कि भाई, if there is an error, then let me return a div that says error while fetching. If it is still loading, then let me return a spinner on the screen, a loader like this. Or I can write something like this. And lastly, if neither of these conditions is true, then let me return a div which renders the posts.map, or just let me render data json.stringify data. Or if I want, I can iterate over the data as well, render just the posts. So yeah, we don't need this. Great. This one line of code, I did not have to write any fetch logic. Okay, I had to write it over here. That is fine. But did I have to write any try catch logic here? No. Did I have to create another variable called isLoading that I had to maintain myself? No. If there was an error, did I have to put a try catch? No. Is this library revalidating every X seconds? We can add that logic. We'll add that in the next section. But you can ask this library, every 10 seconds, please hit the backend again. Every 10 seconds, please call this function again, update the data. That is what this library provides you. Let's see if it works. This getter function is correct. I have wrapped the query client over here. I am calling use query over here, and I am conditionally rendering things. You can conditionally render like this also. Until now, we have seen this. Okay, if error is true, then render error, else render something else. Or we have seen this. If error is true, then render error is there on the screen. We have seen this in the past. What we're doing now is a different way to do conditional rendering. If this is true, तो ये return कर दो. If this is true, तो ये return कर दो. Otherwise, return this. Let's see what comes on the screen. If I go to localhost:5173 and restart the application and refresh, nothing comes because I have an error. The error is query client provider is not defined. So let me import the query client provider. Let me press backspace plus R. It will show me an auto suggestion that you can import it from here. Let me press enter. I see it up here. If I refresh now, can you see there is loading that comes for a millisecond? Can you see loading over here for a millisecond? A spinner of sorts comes for a really small time, but there is a loader before the actual thing comes up. If there was an error would come up. I don't think this is throwing an error, which is why if I replace this with, some random URL and save, you're just stuck on loading. But if I do this, throw new error, I'm sure someone can show me a way to, throw an error over here as well, or a better way to throw errors. It's still stuck on loading. We should figure this out at the end of the class. Okay, how can the error variable over here become true? And it should happen if this throws an error. Let me quickly try one last thing and try to see if I can trigger an error. If not, we can figure it out at the end of the class. I've installed the Axios library, and I'm going to replace the fetch with an Axios.get. on a very random looking URL. Now I see error while fetching data. So when it came pehle also. Loading, I guess it's just taking time. 1, 2, 3. We'll wait for 10 seconds, and if not, that's fine. Throw new error. Hi there. Refresh. We'll wait for like 10 seconds or so. Maybe there's probably a timeout variable we can give over here. There you go. There you go. Error while fetching. So if there is an error that is thrown over here, I did not have to wrap it inside a try catch, create a state variable called error. It automatically did it for me. So this is one of many things that, this library provides you. Let me get back the original URL. There we go. The only other thing I wanted to show was, okay, you can also add logic to invalidate automatic refreshes. This is one thing I wanted to show. Okay, if you give it one last attribute over here called refresh interval. Refresh interval of, let's say, whatever, 10 seconds. Then every 10 seconds, it will start to refresh the backend request. It will pretty much, start to get back the data from the backend. And that is cool because, you can keep re-invalidating your state. What if the backend data changed, So every 10 seconds, you can send back a request. What have I missed over here? Something simple, most probably. Query client provider. Let me re-import it. Now, if you see the network tab, there was one request that went out to /posts. But if I wait for 10 seconds, you will see another request. Then you will see another request. It will keep refetching data from the backend, which is good because, if your backend is changing very quickly, those changes will come on the front end as well. Hopefully that is simple enough. Great thing that the TanStack query library provides you. It provides you 10 different things. Why is it useful? Because what was this library that we were talking about? The WAGMI library is a React hooks library designed for building applications with Ethereum. It gives you hooks similar to const balance equal to use balance for an address 0x something. So these guys could create those hooks themselves, or they could rely on something like this. They could have the request to get the balance from Ethereum over here, and they could provide that as a getter over here. That way, they don't have to write the logic to re-fetch data, invalidate data. The use query hook does it for them. That is why this library depends on the TanStack query library. Hopefully we understand what the TanStack query library does as well. Can we do a quick poll before we move on to the next library for today? We're already at 9 over here and we haven't done too much Ethereum stuff. So let's quickly get into the next library for today. We understand this. 88% is beautiful. So let's move on to this next library for today. I don't know how to pronounce it because today is the first time I saw this library. This library, let's call it Vim, is a low-level TypeScript interface for Ethereum that enables developers to interact with the Ethereum blockchain, including the JSON RPC API, smart contracts, wallets, signing, a lot of things. It is a library that, number one, lets you interact with the RPC servers of Ethereum. Harkiyat, what are RPC servers of Ethereum? Remote procedure call. If you remember from our initial days, whenever we send a request to get account on Solana, we used to send a request to an RPC server. Similarly, if I want to send a request to get a balance for a specific user ID, I will send an HTTP request, or more technically what's called an RPC request, remote procedure call request, to an RPC server, which interacts with the blockchain and, figures out my balance, lets me know what my balance is. That is what an RPC call does. It gives you it's how you talk to the blockchain through an intermediary server. You can create these servers yourself. If you remember, we created some on Alchemy initially. You can create your own RPC servers. You can use a public RPC server as well. You can send it requests like, give me my balance for this address. It will return you the balance of that specific address. This library will give you a few functions that under the hood do the same thing. It's very similar to add solana/web3.js or even ether.js, which is another library that we will be using. It has functions like these: client.getBlock number. Which block is currently Ethereum on. If I go to Etherscan, I can see the current latest block 20993336. This is the current block, the latest block. Get block number will give me that latest block. Or more specifically, this function hopefully we get a client.get balance is a great function. It returns me the balance of this specific address that I can log over here. So what does the VM library let you do? It lets you talk to the blockchain. You can write it yourself also. You can write axios.get. You can always write something like axios.get ethrpc.com. Send it some body, which is, the standard JSON RPC format, method, get balance, params, an address, something like this. You can also do this. No one's stopping you from doing this, but it's just easy to just use a function like this one, client.getBalance, which under the hood does the same thing. So let's quickly try it out. Let me remove all the logic over here in our React application. Let's do it directly in the React application. Let me make it completely empty. And here let me send or use the whatever client.block number function or client.getBalance function. So step 1, I need to install Veeam. So npm install VIEM. After it is installed, I need to again do it inside a use effect, or what we can do is let's create a button on click equal to get balance. Let's do something like this. I have created a button that the user can click on. When they click on it, this function gets called. Here, I will write the logic to either send an axios.get request, or I can create a client. This I can create anywhere. Create public client. Where do I import this from? I import this from this library over here. And here I can simply call client.get balance, whatever is the address whose balance I want. So let's say I want the balance of this specific address, the native Ethereum balance. This isn't USDC balance. That's a whole different, thing you're doing. You're interacting with a smart contract. This is you just asking the Ethereum blockchain कि इसकी balance field क्या है? What is the balance of this specific user? Last week we discussed this कि this is stored in the world state in Ethereum. Let me just log it for now. Const res equal to await this thing. Console.log result. Let me make this async. Let's see if it works. Does it give me the balance of the specific address? Let me run the application here. I forgot to export default app over here. When I was removing the code, I removed this line as well, which is why it failed. Let me retry. To recap, I got the create public client function to create a client. Oh, two important things here. What is the chain? I've written mainnet here, but I totally forgot to tell you what this chain is. I'm sure some of you already know. This is what blockchain you are interacting with. Is it the mainnet of Ethereum? Is it the Polygon blockchain? Is it another EVM blockchain? Is it the testnet of Ethereum? What network of Ethereum are you interacting with? If you remember, in Solana, sometimes we interacted with api.mainnet.beta.solana.com. Sometimes we interacted with api.dev.solana.com. Based on, were we talking to the dev server of dev blockchain of Solana, which is the dummy blockchain, or the real blockchain of Solana? So here also, when we say mainnet, we mean the real mainnet chain, the Ethereum mainnet. If I wanted the testnet, if I wanted a different blockchain that is EVM, that is Ethereum compatible, that has the same architecture as Ethereum, then I can put that blockchain over here as well. This is the mainnet blockchain. And transport is a very common term in blockchains otherwise also. Transport means how do you want to talk to it? Do you want to use the HTTP protocol? Do you want to use the WebSocket protocol? Is there some other protocol you want to use? How are you talking to this specific RPC server? In our case, we are just using the HTTP transport. If any of you have ever gone through libp2p, which IPFS use. Never mind. Basically, transport is a very common term that tells how are you talking to another backend, or how are your nodes talking to each other. They could be HTTP, could be WebRTC, could be WebSockets, and you should go through this library if you want to. Their code base isn't very active, and there also a similar concept remains. They have this concept of transports on how nodes talk to each other. Alrighty, let's see, does it work? This is the code. Let me put it on the left. This is the front end that we put it on the right. Of course, it doesn't work the first time. If I open the console, it tells me HTTP is not defined, so I need to import it from the Veeam library again. If I refresh now, click on the get balance button, and it returns me an internal error because I am passing in the wrong arguments here. The arguments are of this type. Address, I need to pass in an object. I can't pass in a string over here. I have to pass something like this. Now if I go back here and refresh, click on get balance, I see my Ethereum balance over here. What was my Ethereum balance? It was 1.33 Ethereum. This is the same number in WEI, V, the lowest denomination of Ethereum. So I can divide this by 10 raised to the power 18. I will get my 1.3 Ethereum balance over here. So this library works great, lets you do what you want, and you can log the balance, store it in a state variable, put it over here. But how can you make it better? How can you add automatic refreshes? How can you, if there is an error, show the user an error while interacting with the blockchain? How can you give the user a variable like loading in case this request is loading, you're still getting the data from the backend? You can use the TANStack query on this get balance function. You can move this function out separately, use the TANStack query library like we did, and the library will ensure it is refetching. If there is an error, it is returning you an error, things like these. So if you want, and that is exactly what we do in the next slide, if you want, you can hookify it yourself. You can convert these HTTP requests into a hook by creating an external function called getBalance, where let's say you create the client, even though you should create it outside, get the balance, return the balance, and in your app component, wrap your app inside this query provider, and over here create the query that looks like this. Use query. This is the key of my query. The function is getBalance, and let's say I want to refresh it every 10 seconds. So what will happen over here? Every 10 seconds it will keep on getting the balance, logging it over here. So you get like a real-time balance to play with. So can you create a hook yourself? If you look at this code, what does the code do? Moved out the getBalance function separately, created a new TANStack query client similar to the one that we did in the last slide. The app component wraps everything inside the query client provider, then renders the to-dos component. In the to-dos component, I write const query equal to, or if I want, I can write const data, loading, is loading, error equal to use query, the name of the query, the function of the query, and how often I want to refresh it. Let's say 10 seconds. And then I render the balance as data over here. If I want, I can also create a custom hook. I can create a custom hook called use balance, which simply returns ye cheese. The thing that I've written on the right, I can simply return from here. And that way, I have a very nice use balance hook. This is what the WAGMI library does. The WAGMI library gives you a bunch of React hooks for things like getting balance of a specific address or getting the current block number. So it will give you something like use block number, things like these. What was the WAGMI library? The WAGMI library is a React hooks library. It gives you a bunch of these hooks, which under the hood use the use query hook and do things like fetching data, fetching balance, things like these. Do we understand the WAGMI library? The WAGMI library depends on both of these library, TANStack as well as Veeam, to create what we have created over here. I don't know when this poll was created. Is this the latest poll? No, this is the latest poll. Do we understand this? Oh, we do. Okay, great. So फिर moving on, then the only thing that is left is now using the Wagmi library, which is something we could have done shuru se hi, but now we understand how the Wagmi library works under the hood. We can read through its code base. If you ever want to create your own connector for a new wallet, you can hopefully do it, or maybe not. That's a little too much. We can discuss how to do that, but we understand thoda how it works under the hood. Let's write the logic to connect to a wallet, get balance, use these hooks that it provides you. So let's start a fresh React application. You guys should if you are testing locally. I already have a React application here, so I'm not going to reinitialize. Let me just get rid of everything. So I have a simple div that I return that says hi there. Return everything else. Export default app. I have a empty React application on my side. Hopefully you do as well. If I go over here, I see hi there over here. What is step one for any decentralized app, for any dApp? Show them the wallets they can connect to. When I go to Uniswap, what is the first thing I did? When I click on one over here, it tells me I can convert it into, let's say 2400 USDT. The first thing it asks me to do is connect my wallet. कि कौन से wallet से connect करना चाहते हो? Wagmi library gives you the same functionality. It is a wallet adapter library. It also lets you connect to these wallets. How does it do that? Initialize the library. Create a simple component. Let's first create the component. Basically, eventually, we will create a sort of a real dApp, decentralized app, where you can send Ethereum over to someone. So let's just write the HTML for it. An input tag, type equal to text, placeholder equal to address, and a button that says send ETH, or let's say send 0.1 ETH. So when you click on this button, it will send 0.1 ETH to whatever address you paste over here. Click on this button, it should send 0.1 ETH. To do that, you first have to show the user the wallets, let the user connect their wallets. So that's step 2. For that, you need the Wagmi library, but you also need Veeam. You also need @tanstack/React query. So let's copy them and add these 3 dependencies to our code base. That's Wagmi, Veeam, and @tanstack/React query. While that is happening, let's read through the next section over here, which is slightly mildly overwhelming, nothing too weird here. What does this section say? It imports a few things from Wagmi, Wagmi/chains, and Wagmi/connectors. 3 different places it imports things from. Wagmi say it gets create config to create a config for your wallet. The HTTP transport that we saw a while back. How do you want to talk to the backend using HTTP for now? 3 blockchains. You might have heard of Base. They created an EVM blockchain called, you might have heard of Coinbase, the exchange. They've created a blockchain called Base that is EVM compatible. So you can import that. This is Ethereum mainnet. This is Optimism, which is another EVM compatible blockchain. And then you import various wallets. The first one is injected. Does this ring a bell in the past? Injected. What did we say? Whenever you install a wallet, it injects some code on every website. If I right click over here and search for window.phantom, it gives me something. I repeat, window.phantom returns me some object which has Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin. Notion ke people to haven't written any of this logic. The Notion engineers haven't created a global variable called Phantom. These extensions inject this code into every website. That is what the injected wallet means. यार जो भी wallets inject कर रहे हैं ना code, I want to show those wallets. I want to show MetaMask explicitly. बंदे पे नहीं है तो भी I want to show it. I want to show the safe wallet. I want to show the wallet connect wallet. These are the 4 wallets I want to show, let's say. Now wallet connect is a little weird. This lets you do 10 different things, log in via Google. I think they're owned by Binance. I could be wrong, which is why you need a Wallet Connect project ID here as well. You don't need all of these imports. Injected is good enough. That is what we did in Solana. But if you want, you can explicitly put, a wallet over there. कि बंदे पे नहीं भी है. If the person doesn't have that wallet also, then also they see it. This was the thing that I was talking about. There was an issue in Backpack when I joined. We need to create a connector for WAGMI. We had to create this export over there. Whenever a new wallet comes, it is the developer of that wallet's responsibility. It is the responsibility of the developer of that wallet to create this connector over there. Okay? These are the wallets that they have. Let's say we just go with Injected and MetaMask. If need be, we can go with all of them as well. Then we create the config. These are the chains we support. We support the Ethereum mainnet and let's say the Coinbase chain. These are the connectors, the various wallets, injected wallets, and let's say MetaMask or just the injected wallets are also good enough for us. And this is how we're going to talk to Ethereum mainnet via HTTP. This is how we're going to talk to the Coinbase blockchain, the base blockchain via HTTP. That is what the config over here describes. So let's get this config and clean it a little bit before we put it into our code base. I import all the things. Let me remove the project ID and let me remove all the other wallets from here. Since I already have 2-3 wallets, for me the injected wallets is good enough. If you don't have any wallets, then you should explicitly put MetaMask over there. Then you will see a MetaMask button. When you click on it, it will take you to metamask.org and you can install it. For me, I'm assuming my app is made for crypto native people. उन पे तो wallet होगा ही. Whatever injected wallets they have, I'm going to show them on the UI. Transports, HTTP for mainnet and base. Let's say we only support mainnet for now. Let's also remove the base blockchain for now. I have created the config for the WAGMI connector. And next step is again to wrap this app inside the providers. There is a WAGMI provider. There is a TanStack query provider because this uses that under the hood. So you have to wrap your application inside both of these providers. This provides the config. This provides the query client like we did a while back. So let me initialize the TanStack query client. Let me import it from the right place. And let me add both the providers over here. Let's call it whatever, the query client provider. Query client equal to, or client equal to query client, I think. That's the first one. And the second one is the WAGMI provider. I don't think the order would matter at all. If you wrap that first, then later, it's fine. I think the WAGMI provider, which I import from the WAGMI library. So WAGMI provider came from here and the query client provider came from at tanstack/react query. Now inside this, whatever components render, there I can use all the hooks of WAGMI provider, the use balance hook, because that specific component, let's say the ETH send component, is wrapped inside both of these children. So if I write ETH send over here and return this div, now here I can use the various functions that it provides. Before I use any of those functions, what do I need to show to the user? I need to show them wallet connector, a component where they can select one of many wallets and connect to one of those wallets. It pops up that wallet, the user can connect to it. Here we will use our very first hook for today. The hook is called the use connect hook. Again, this is a custom hook. We haven't discussed custom hooks yet in React, but this is a custom hook. We will make ours very soon. Basically means it depends on a bunch of other use state, use effect hooks. That is what a custom hook is. You can't create a function called random which uses use state. If you ever use a hook, the thing that is using it also needs to be a hook And this is what is called a custom hook basically. But if you don't understand it, it is fine. We'll discuss this tomorrow in the React class. In the wallet connector, I first use the use connect hook. Where do I import this from? I import this from the WAGMI library. And then I iterate over all the connectors. This is an array now. Connectors is an array of wallets. I iterate over all of them. And I create a button for every wallet. Give it the name as the title of the button. And when you click on it, I call connect with the connector as an object. So let me copy this and bring it here. You can do it like this, or you can, put it inside an object. Either is fine. What have I done? We can log this also and see what does connectors look like. But connectors will look something like this. It will be an array of, the first one is, let's say name backpack, and then connector UID BPC, let's say, and then whatever, some more things over here. And then the second wallet would be, let's say, name phantom UID PHN, let's say, so on and so forth. Connectors will be an array. I iterate over this array and create various buttons for every element in here. And on every button I say, when you click on it, I will call connect, which is again something that this use connect returns you with that respective connector. अगर आप backpack पे click करोगे, I will try to connect to backpack. If you click on phantom, I will try to connect to phantom. So the wallet connector component now uses the very first hook that WAGMI provides you, the use connect hook. What was like WAGMI? A React hooks library. What is the first hook we are using? The use connect hook. Let's see, does it do what it's supposed to do? Let me refresh this. Of course it fails because the first time we open the console and it says base is not defined. Let me remove the base blockchain from here. Let me refresh. And can you see the buttons for various wallets that I have? I have MetaMask, Phantom and Backpack. Do I see MetaMask, Phantom and Backpack over here? Yes, Harkirat. There is another one called Injected. We'll come to what that is. But when I click on MetaMask, nothing happens. Let's try Backpack. When I clicked on Phantom, Phantom popped up. When I refresh, put my password, it asks me, do you want to connect to this DApp? This is similar to Uniswap, right? Uniswap lets you swap assets. I am letting you send Ethereum. So it is asking, do you want to connect to this localhost 5173? Eventually I will deploy my application to sendeth.com. So there you will see, do you want to connect to sendeth.com? Click on connect. And now, this wallet is connected to this website. If I want, I can disconnect it also. Let's add that logic in the next section. But this is how, let me refresh this and show you another wallet. Let's say MetaMask. When I click on MetaMask, I see the MetaMask pop up. I can select which wallet to connect. Now my MetaMask is connected. Harkirat, how do you know? Because number one, I can go to MetaMask and it will clearly tell me that you are currently connected to, what does it say? Ledger 3 is connected to this website which has this logo. This website right here. So this is connected over here. This can request for approvals from this wallet now. Question is, how can you request for wallet approval? And more technically, how can you show the user their balance, their address, things like these? Hopefully you can guess by now. Okay, once the user has connected their wallet, and what is injected, I guess one more thing I should discuss is what is injected. Basically is all of these wallets are fighting against each other to inject the code first. And whoever does it first becomes the primary wallet. So if I click on injected, it will open whatever, amongst these three ended up winning that war of, injecting, overriding each other. So when I click on injected, nothing opens up right now. Again, it stopped working. Did I change the code? When I click on MetaMask, the MetaMask pop-up came. Let me disconnect, not do it. When I click on injected, again, nothing is happening. Okay, let's refresh. Let's wait for 5 seconds. Now let's click on injected. Nothing happened. Phantom. It's being a little finicky right now. We should debug why that is. Now it's working from time to time. Hold on. 5 seconds. Click on backpack. Yeah, it's not working. Click on MetaMask. It worked. We need to debug why that is. Nothing in the console. This happens for a few reasons. Let me see if I can see something in the console when I recreate it. Injected. Injected should have popped up. One of these didn't though. Yes, being finicky. Is it happening for everyone? Let me try maybe Brave. Not that it'll change anything. Brave has Phantom, MetaMask, and this Brave wallet. Brave by default also got into Ethereum, lets you create, some random wallets. When I click on MetaMask here, it pops up MetaMask, asks me to, whatever, sign up. I don't want to. Phantom, opens Phantom. When I click on injected, it opens Phantom as well. When I clicked on Phantom, it opened Phantom by default. Yaar, Harkirat wanted to open Phantom. When I click on injected, it opens Phantom, and Phantom's engineers are kind enough कि उन्होंने ये पेज डाल दिया. Basically, they saw a lot of hate initially when Phantom migrated to Ethereum. जो लोग MetaMask use करते थे, everyone that was using MetaMask, this fight that I was talking about between various wallets, Phantom started to win that fight, and उनके लिए Phantom started to open. But Phantom was late into the game, so they received a lot of hate on Twitter. They created this specific, pop-up. क्या ठीक है? I know you came via the injected provider. You were probably expecting MetaMask to be here. So which extension do you want to connect? If you want to connect extension, ठीक है, use MetaMask. If you want to connect Phantom, then you can use us as well. So this specific pop-up sort of, is customized by the Phantom engineers. By default, in their first release, they just showed you Phantom. Eventually, they sort of fixed this and made it better. All right. We can pop up wallets. We can connect wallets. How do we know a wallet is connected though? Again, you have a bunch of hooks, right? I can create a whatever my address component where I can use the const address equal to use address. What is that hook? Use account, my bad. The use account hook, which will return you an address as an object over here, a key of the object. And then I can simply render the address over here, hoping that is straightforward to understand. Okay, this will get the address of the currently connected wallet. If there is no wallet connected right now, it will return nothing right now. I have rendered it over here. Let's see, does that work? Let me go to localhost :5173. Let me connect, let's say Phantom. When I click on connect, oh, my bad. In Phantom, I have a wallet which currently doesn't have it only supports Solana. I put it via private key. It doesn't have an Ethereum wallet. So I can either switch to this guy, which has everything. Let me refresh, connect Phantom. And when I connect, it shows me that you have connected to whatever, OXFE30, this wallet right here. Simple. Just how I can get the wallet details. Can I also get the balance? Yes, Harkirat. Using the use balance hook, which expects again the address in a certain format. Either like this or in an object. We can see which one. Let me refresh. Most probably in the object. It should be here as well. Yeah, it is as an object. So something like this. The use balance hook will take any address as an input. Yahan pe I'm putting in my address only, which is why it will return me my balance, and I can render the balance over here. Wow, I wasn't even rendering it. When I refresh, everything goes bonkers. Why? Balance is an object. Let me just dump the object for now. Refresh. And as you can see, oh, what's happening here? It's a big int. Balance. So what happens is Ethereum balances are stored as big ints in JavaScript, which you can't stringify very easily. So let's try rendering balance dot data dot value. Let's try that. Refresh. Let me also put optional chaining here for when it isn't present. There we go. Wait for it. Refresh. It shows nothing, probably because my Ethereum balance is 0 over here. My Ethereum balance is 0, is probably returning null, as you know. Balance.data. Let me connect to another wallet where I have some Ethereum balance. So let me connect to MetaMask. To this one, it has 1.33 ETH. When I confirm and connect, I see the address. I still don't see the balance because, wait for it. Big int or undefined. Let me just log the balance. It is an object dot data, which is an object dot formatted is what I should render. The value, as you can see, is a big int, which React isn't able to render. But if I see the formatted field, it is a string that is formatted into a format that you can dump in the browser. Value is also something, but it's a big int, which isn't rendering in React over here. You can convert the big int into a string, or simply render data.value.formatted. And then, as you can see here, this is my Ethereum balance, or maybe it was coming before also. I never saw this thing over here. Let me put a BR tag, and there you go. This is the address. This is my balance. The use balance hook can be used to fetch the balance of a specific address. You can show the user their balance over here. Very similar to various websites. If you go to Uniswap, you can see your address over here. You can see the balance that you have over here. Similarly, on our dApp, you can see the address, see the amount of balance that the user has. What's the one thing that is left? Sending a transaction on the blockchain, requesting an approval from MetaMask to send some money, receive something else, things like these. For that, one last thing is left, which is initializing a transaction. Sending someone Ethereum is a very simple native transaction, which is why, there is again a use send transaction hook, not a function, a use send transaction hook that gives you a send transaction function that you can call. When you call this, it will initiate a transaction to send someone Ethereum. If that transaction succeeds or goes to the blockchain, the hash of that specific transaction, the signature, not the signature, but the transaction hash for that specific transaction, you can get in this data variable that you can store in the hash variable. That is what this syntax over here means. It means the thing was stored in the data variable, but you converted it into you change the name of the key to be hash. We can also, make this simpler if need be. So what is the send transaction component doing now? Our component, the send transaction component until now, simply rendered two input boxes like this. What are we doing now? Okay, given these two input boxes, when the user clicks on this button, send ETH, a function gets called, and inside this function, we are using the send transaction function, which comes from the use send transaction hook. So let me bring the use send transaction hook over here. Let me import it from again the WAGMI library. And if you see the send ETH function, what do I have to do over here? I have to send a transaction where the inputs are to and value. Who do I want to send Ethereum? Where does that come from? It comes from this input box. How much Ethereum do I want to send? That we know already. It is, whatever, 0.1 ETH, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 zeros equal to 0.1 ETH. That is right. That is right. Who do I want to send it to though? Whatever is present over here. How can I get what is present in this input box? Ideally, you should use refs We understood this last week. Or what is the ugly way of doing it? Give it an ID, let's say address, and just do document.getElement by ID address dot value. Either do this, but what's the better way to do it? The better way to do it is, use refs from last week, if you remember, and, store this input element in a ref rather than, getting it over here via document.getElement by ID. Let's see, does that work? I'm unsure if this is the right input because this is a very big number. So you probably can't store that in JavaScript like this. Let's try sending it as a string, but we might have to send it as a big int eventually. Let's refresh. Let me go to Google Chrome, refresh, click on MetaMask. Again, it's being finicky. Oh, it's already connected. That's why. Oh, that's why probably it wasn't working. That makes sense. It wasn't working before because MetaMask was already connected. So you don't have to pop up for approval again. It's already connected. Only when I disconnect will I click on it and it will pop up again and I can reconnect. That makes sense. Now let's say the address, currently how much ETH do I have? 1.33 ETH. Let's say I want to send 0.1 ETH over to, this ledger 4 address. This is where I'm sending from. This is where I want to send the money. Copy it, paste it over here, click on send 0.1 ETH. It did pop it correctly. It requested approval from MetaMask. It is telling Kirat, you're trying to send 0.1 ETH. Are you sure you want to do it? If I click on confirm, it will do the transaction. And as long as this WAGMI library is creating the right transaction in this send Ethereum function, you're good to go. Most probably it is the transaction simulation over here also showed you that only 0.1 ETH is getting debited. If this was hacky, it would have, stolen all of your funds. Do we understand how can you pop up a wallet to send Ethereum from one wallet to another? Do we understand this? If we do, the next step is simple. How can you call a transaction, do a function call on a smart contract, be it, to update state or to read state. That's the next step from here. But do we understand everything until this point? Oh, suddenly dropped. But that's fine. It's anyways doubt time anymore. 80% understand now. 20% are a little lost. One thing that I forgot to tell was this section right here. Basically means, this data will store the transaction signature. I can render that over here. Transaction signature is how can you go to Etherscan and, look at the transaction. For example, there are many 199 transactions happening over here. Let's look at, any such random transaction. Let's say this one right here. And this is its transaction hash. So similarly, this data variable will give you back a hash. Now you can render it as such, or you can change its name to be hash and then render hash over here. So this syntax basically converts the name rather than destructuring data as data. It destructures data as hash, which is what we have rendered over here. Cool. Hopefully that was clear. And with that, let me take you through the assignments for this week. Then I'll take doubts. The assignment for this week is, I'll also make videos on it. But if you go through the docs of WAGMI, you should be able to figure out how can you now start to interact with smart contracts. Until now, we're doing a very simple transaction. We are sending someone Ethereum. But in the real world, you might want to swap. You might want to buy an NFT. You might want to list an NFT. You might want to send someone Ethereum as a loan in lieu of some collateral. How can you call those smart contracts, which, either just read something from the blockchain, don't have to pay any gas, things like getting the balance, write something on the blockchain, some Uber application that you're writing it to, write something on the blockchain and also pay some money when calling a function. When you're calling a smart contract function, you can also give it some Ethereum. How can you do that? These are the 3 things that are assignments for this week. With that, I will take doubts. And class is officially over. But before I take doubts, can we quickly hop onto another meet and test it? Maybe we'll do doubts there if everything works. Stay on Zoom as well. Don't go off of Zoom. But there's another platform. Let's try to see if we can go over there and you guys can still hear and see me. Hopefully that is the case. I just forgot what the website was. There you go. So I'm going to paste a link in the chat. if you guys don't mind joining over there and telling me if you guys can see and hear me. I have started the meeting. Oh, Murphy's law has kicked in and it is not happening. Start. Oh, there we go. Alrighty. There we go. Copy link, paste it in chat. Do you guys mind coming over here and I'll answer all the doubts over there. You might have to mute the tab, else you'll hear me twice. So you can hear me on Zoom, that is fine. But if you can see me on the link, can you give me a hi or a hello in the chat? Oh, questions are coming. There we go. Build an NFT marketplace with, oh, whoopsie daisy. Chat became really big. All right. Oh, it's too late. Okay, stop chatting then, I guess I would say. Let's chat on Zoom. Oh, whoopsie daisy. No, stop chatting. There we go. Yup. I lost my seed phrase in MetaMask a year ago. That is, account doesn't have any funds. So just create a new one. Doesn't matter in that case. Lagging. A few more things. Screen stuck. Alrighty. I think we have a few things to do before we can test this again. Also on the producer side, this is stuck. Let me take a screenshot. Oh, all right. Let's end that. Let's come back to Zoom now. I've closed it. Alrighty. Thank you guys for joining. Few more things we have to do before I can call that prod ready. All right. I'll try to upload this lecture by tomorrow morning on harkira.classics.co.in. The other website will take some time, but hopefully not more than 2 days. UI was ugly. I know. These guys need to work on that. I mean, there is a Figma design, but this was just to test scale, which also did not work because chat sort of bonked everything. I could have disabled chat now that I think of it, but okay. I'm also on a bad Wi-Fi, so not the best way to test, video streaming platform. Let's start from the top over here. Let's take some doubts. Where did the starter point go? When will release liquidity pools? Oh, that's pretty simple to do actually. Creating liquidity pools should be very easy. So maybe next week. No, not maybe next week. Let's just hash it out next week. And NFTs and metadata probably, either we'll do live next week or we'll see, maybe another week. Upload DevOps offline. Let me do a poll. I actually don't mind. We can do DevOps offline because a lot of people joined only DevOps and then now they're frustrated because nothing is there and web dev is going so long. So I don't mind. We can do web DevOps offline and some online classes also, but at least the initial bits we can do offline. Exchange app, where and how to store users' funds. I have a video on YouTube where I go through the architecture of WazirX. It's on 100x Devs YouTube channel. I discussed this over there. Okay, how do exchanges store user funds? Long story short, there is a very big master wallet that stores most of the funds. That's what got hacked for these guys. WazirX folks. So there's everyone's funds is present in a single wallet, which got hacked for these guys. And then there's another wallet called the, I don't know what should we call it? The sender wallet. Whenever you request for withdrawals, you pretty much pull funds from here. This probably has like 5% of the funds. This has 95% of the funds. And then every user has their own deposit address where they deposit their funds. So if I want to put 1 Ethereum in Binance, I will send 1 Ethereum to my address, which from time to time gets swept to the main wallet. There is also another wallet that sits over here that's called the deposit wallet. If I send 10 USDC over here, I can't send this over to the primary wallet because it doesn't have any native ETH. So first this will send me some 0.001 native ETH. Then I will take the 10 USDC and send it over here. So this is the high level architecture. Bunch of wallets for every user gets swept to the primary wallet. And then from there goes to whenever someone asks for withdrawal, there's like most probably every day they would, put funds from here to here. Surprisingly, this got hacked. This didn't. This still had like $250K US dollars or something like that in this wallet. This wallet is, which is, what got hacked. All right. Oh, no questions. Please no questions. Yeah, I will try my best to release DevOps and more offline videos on this thing. Web3. Try my best, I say, because, Super 30 is a little time consuming. A few more questions. Same question again and again. What project? What do you mean, what project? AI cohort for Web3 folks. You mean this guy is Ayush's or like generally? There's one guy I asked him to make 10 videos. He got sick or something. I'll follow up. Same question again and again. Oh, this is from old. I don't know. Is BigInt same as long in C++? Sort of. Long in C++ lets you store what 10 per 8 up to 10 per 18 numbers. BigInt I think can go much bigger. It's a class which probably under the hood stores the very big number in chunks, lets you add, divide, things like these. So I think it's a class. Let's see, is BigInt a class? I think so. In JavaScript, for as the name suggests, it's a function that lets you store whatever very big numbers, which become very common when you think about native balances in the native unit. How Ledger connects with web wallets? Yeah, so most web wallets realized, and this is again one of the first issues that another engineer was working on when I joined Backpack, that most people have these wallets, but if I have this hardware wallet over here, let's say, I can't directly connect it to my machine or my web site. There is like a Ledger app I can open. I can't really open this or connect this to a browser. So these wallets said yaar apne Ledger ko bhi yahan le aao. So when you go over here and click on add account or hardware wallet, it lets you add a hardware wallet as well. It is read only. It doesn't know the private key of my private wallet. It's still here, the private key, but it'll show me all the public things. Your address has this much balance, things like these. And whenever I try to send money, receive money, or sign a transaction, it'll ask me कि भाई पहले इसको connect कर लो. I know where to find it. I can website requests MetaMask for approval. MetaMask requests this cold wallet for approval. So when I go to here, press a few buttons, I approve this transaction, then that transaction signature reaches here and goes to the blockchain. So for hot wallets, this guy signs the transaction. For cold wallets, this guy asks my Ledger for approval. I approve it on the Ledger. Ledger signs it over here and sends it over to the wallet, and that gets broadcasted to the blockchain. There's no Web3 hackathon. There is a IIT Roorkee hackathon that we're sponsoring. Syntax error. So you can look at that. I think it's coming soon. $500 for the community. Like not too big of a price pool. I will try to produce some classics as soon as possible. Okay, this is where the actual questions began. Since few wallets code is open source, how do we know that the wallet is using the same code in the backend? I mean, the wallet company put different code in GitHub, and they can do that. So this is where checksums come into the picture. You create a hash from your code base, and you ensure that the thing that you're downloading from the app store has the same hash. Or you have their code, you can read their code, clone their code, build their code, put that as the extension. You don't have to get it from their Chrome store officially. That is a valid question. You don't have to get the extension from the Chrome store. Clone their code base locally, build their code base into an extension, use that extension. That code you understand, that code you verified, use that code directly. Build an NFT marketplace with Foundry. Suggest some project DApp ideas to land a job as Solidity dev. What is query client? Build an NFT marketplace with Foundry. That should not be too difficult in Ethereum. That would have been challenging on Solana, but shouldn't be too difficult in Ethereum, so we can do it. Let me take a screenshot. Project ideas to land a job as a Solidity dev. One company that I'm in touch with are building a prediction market two. One on Solana, one on Ethereum. So if you can build a prediction market, it's become a hot market right now. So if you can write the logic for a decentralized prediction market that lets you trade on whatever Trump and Harris and whatever Polymarket, something like that, that's a good project to build. If you can write the contract for it, I know one company that's building it, and recently hired someone for 20-25 LPA. Can you explain transfer hooks in detail, please? Sure, in a video. Long story short, even I haven't read through it, but as the name suggests, it lets you hook into token transactions. Things like whenever someone is sending a token to someone else, 5% comes to the token issuer, me. Something you would expect from a government. Whenever transfer happens between two accounts, 30% goes to the government, 18% goes to the government. So transfer hooks let you do this in a generic way, add use cases like these on top of tokens. But we should do a video. I haven't also read through it. I read through some interesting ones. Oh, wow, this is nice. A good use case to build. But never really, locking is one. If you want to natively allow people to lock tokens from time to time, government would want that again if they realize this wallet belongs to a terrorist. Things like these. Now Solana natively supports wire transfer hooks. But yeah, I should first go through it myself before I share it. Just came like in the token 22 standard, right? Is gaming in Web3 real use case or just hype? Personal opinion is just hype. Yeah, no one has. There were a few Axie Infinity things like these that were mostly hype only. I think they died down eventually. What is this TG bot? Let me take a screenshot. Gaming Web3 a real use case or just hype? Answer that. How to connect? Answer that. UI was ugly for the webinar. Yeah, it's true. Another Notion doc. Someone from cohort made it. Made it where? Nice UI. This is bento box UI, I think. I recently learned. Since few wallet code is okay, answer that. Can I use TanStack with in Redux? You can. You don't need to. TanStack query is doing state management for you. It is returning you the state variable. It is updating the state variable on refreshing. So you don't need to use it with another state management library. If your application only needs to hit some backend endpoints, get some data, use TanStack query, right? Why do you have to bring Redux into the picture? You got the hook. It is returning you the data. Render the data. Go from there. So you don't need to. All right. Let's look at this. Oh, well, the UI is really good. I must say. Whoever this is, I'm impressed. Unless this is copied, in which case I'm still mildly impressed. Yeah, this is pretty good. You are good in UI. It's a questionnaire platform. Do you want to talk? We can talk. Just ping 100x devs Twitter. It's very good. Your UI skills are commendable. Hard to find them these days. Or good niche that people hire in from time to time. Yeah, pretty good. We can talk. Ping 100x devs Twitter. Let's talk over there. This seems like copied for sure. I know I've seen this many times now. But yeah, I'll basically ask you questions like these. How much of this is copied? How much of this you built yourself? But yeah, pretty decent. Cool. Any last set of questions, guys? Any more questions? All right. How can we build a DEX in ETH also? Can we fork Uniswap? You can fork Uniswap. Their code is open source. Can do it. It's more about who brought distribution, who people trust right now, what is hosted on uniswap.org. But you can always, smart contracts are mostly open source. You can deploy them on your own, build your own front end on it. Question is, will people come or not? One ledger has one seed phrase. Yes. If I have one ledger, yeah, I don't think you can put multiple seed phrases in a ledger. When you open it for the first time, it will show you your 12-word seed phrase. You can refresh it if you want. Once you select it, that's your seed phrase. You write it down, keep it somewhere. And now that seed phrase is, held in this thing as well. That's where you derive the wallets from and, go from there. I have two wallets in Phantom and MetaMask, but showing injected MetaMask, why use same code? I have two wallets, Phantom and MetaMask, but showing injected and MetaMask. Why use in Phantom? Do you have an address that says Ethereum over here? In Phantom, you might only have a Solana based address. That is the only reason I can think of it. Okay, why you don't see Phantom over there. If that is still the case, right click inspect and see window.phantom. And yahan pe do you see Ethereum as a provider? Sorry, run window.phantom. And yahan pe do you see Ethereum? You might have disabled Ethereum in Phantom, which is why you might not see it. What do you mean by EVM compatible wallet? Well, Backpack originally was just a wallet on Solana. It did not support other blockchains. When you clicked here, Solana was the only blockchain. Ethereum, Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, Base are all EVM blockchains. I wouldn't call them forks, but they're not forks of Ethereum, but they all have, EVM under the picture. They have similar RPC requests that you send out. So if a wallet writes code once to support an EVM wallet, it supports all EVM wallets. That is, any blockchain that is EVM based, that has a virtual machine very similar to Ethereum, that stores balances very similar to Ethereum, and that whatever has a similar RPC API endpoints, that has similar wallet generation. So if a wallet starts to support one EVM wallet or EVM blockchain, it supports all of them. Sui is not a EVM wallet or blockchain. Aptos is not an EVM blockchain. Ethereum is an EVM blockchain. Polygon is an EVM blockchain. So when I say EVM compatible wallets, I mean ones that support Ethereum. If they support Ethereum, they support everything. Why create a new live platform? If pricing is than YouTube making private does not work for multiple reasons. Biggest reason being it's illegal. You can't make a private stream on YouTube and use it in an edtech platform. If you do, you are technically, with this breach of terms in YouTube. That's one reason. Two, it can still be shared. You can't really make it private. So yeah. When will we cover Foundry? We will cover Foundry. That's coming when we reach the next section. That is writing contracts. Right now we're in the client side Web3. All right, Notion doc. Why WagMe? Yeah, you can do the same with Ether.js. It's just one of many libraries that are available. You can use Ether.js as well directly. There are 10 different. There's Wallet Connect has its own adapter. There are like 10 different adapters that exist on Ethereum and Solana. You can use either one of these. There's just one that I wanted to share today. One ledger has one seed phrase. Yes, I answered that. How to call smart contract and get call, write call using? You won't use send transaction over there. Just go to wagme.sh and try to read through this a little bit, and it'll come in a video as well. But there's a section, what have we done? We have sent transactions. What have we not done? Reading from contracts and writing to contracts. So you'll find the code over here, but you have to use a different hook to achieve the same thing. Try to Google a bit and try it yourself. Super 30 the job converting two projects into CodeIgniter, Golang, that is available. No one's picking up CodeIgniter in Super 30. People have too many expectations. So like, PHP hum nahi karenge. So if you want, happy to connect. Again, ping 100x just Twitter, they'll connect you. Are you good at CodeIgniter and the other one? If yes, then yeah. Then I'm thinking of using WagMe, makes it a lot easier because of the hooks than Solana. Solana also gives you, the Solana wallet adapter also gives you the use wallet hook, right? Gives you the same thing. It doesn't give you use balance. It doesn't provide a bunch of these hooks. But use wallet, it does, where you get the public key. Similarly, here there was use address that gave you the address. So Solana also, the Solana library also gives you the same thing. Is WagMe only for Ethereum? It can be used for any EVM chain. If you saw a while back, when we were going through the code, mainnet is the only blockchain that I got from here. So this WagMe/chains exports a bunch of chains that are EVM compatible. So it's not one, it supports many blockchains. It doesn't support Solana. It supports EVM compatible blockchains. Which I use this accent only. Mostly. कभी कभी बाहर आ जाता है. Can you tell about the projects you are making in Super 30? Little bit I can share. It'll be a little unfair to people who have paid this much, but eventually maybe in some. For opportunity application, let's say a new opinion stock has been listed, and let's say user A wants to buy 10 yes stocks, and let's say 6 rupees each, and the system places a reverse order that is placed in order to sell 10 no stocks at 4 rupees. My question is, that order looks like in the order book, the placed by the system. When the user chooses to buy 10 no stocks, how is that traced back? You store another variable in there. Is it a reverse order or not? Are you in Super 30? How do you know this deeper question that everyone is asking over there? Either you are there or you know someone who's there. But either way, yes. This is a common question that came over there. You store a field over there which says is reverse : true, which basically tells you this is a reverse order. If it is a reverse order, then you update balances like that. You don't debit money, or you don't debit stocks from one side. You debit cash from one side, debit cash from other side, credit stocks on both the sides. This UI is also pretty good. What is this? Showcase your open source profile. This is pretty good. Can you please see my commits in CMS? Oh. Let me tag Sargam. I'll just look at what it does. One redesigned course listing and add card. Oh. How is this changed? I would assume it is this thing right here. I think so. I don't know. The design is already pretty good. So yeah, okay, makes sense. It's the percentages you have changed, which is not too bad. What we have right now is also pretty good. What you have is also pretty good. And what was the other thing you changed? Progress bar. Oh, progress bar and course listing page. What is course listing page? I would assume it is this only. This is what you have made. This is what it looks like. Okay. I like this a little bit more. I mean, yours is also pretty good. It's debatable which one's better. Yeah, it's pretty good. Let's see which one of these, I mean, this looks like a decent feature to add. This probably, I don't have the best design eye, so I don't know if this which is better, which is not. So I'm okay with either. No real thoughts, like no strong opinions on whether it should get merged or not. Whatever Sarkam decides. All right, cool guys. Let's see if there were more questions. How can we build a DEX in Ethereum? Oh yeah, you can. I think I answered that. Answered that. Oh, I was going up the chain. How to network in cohort for beginners? Oh, for beginners. I mean, people are pretty polite over here. So even if you're a beginner, you can talk to people. I think they'd love to talk to you. And yeah. All right. One last Notion doc. Regarding a structured README assignment. Yeah, I agree. This is exactly what we're doing in Super 30 as well. Like a Notion doc which has, README assignments are a thing. It's just time. And, I'm thinking of what should be the README assignment. And you're right, this is the best way to, learn any project rather than going over a video. Akash, make a note. Let's see if we can build one first. It just overwhelms a lot of people. Most people are so used to watching clones. Okay, most people don't do it. Maybe 10% of you will try it, but that is the right way to learn. And you're right. So let's at least try one. If it has retention, we can do more as well. Cool. It has retention, we can do more as well. Cool. Alrighty, guys. With that, we will call it. Hope you guys have a good night. I will see you guys tomorrow when we do custom hooks and maybe start recoil tomorrow and we go from there in the React world. Good night, folks.